Hi everybody, welcome to Missy's Imaginings. I hope you're doing well. I have a whole bunch of things to talk about. First of all, I got my machine back. She went to the sewing machine doctor, got a new light bulb put in, and the foot lift now works. It stays up, which is an amazing thing when you're trying to sew, to be able to lift the foot and have it stay up. So that's fixed. When I was sewing the project for the little backpacks, I was doing a whole bunch of them for a fundraiser at work. Our company works in tandem with YCAP, which is a local organization to help people. And so I was making these little backpacks to sell to raise funds for that fundraiser. And the bobbin jumped out and the bobbin holder jumped out. And so I thought, oh, well, okay, because it is like heavier sewing materials. And so I got it all cleaned out, put everything back in, and then I could not get the needle to pick up the bobbin thread for anything. So along with the two issues here, it wasn't winding bobbins all the way. Sometimes it wouldn't even work at all. The belt was yelling at me. So it just needed to be serviced. And I took it to the sewing store in our local area where the machine was purchased. And because of the price of this machine, I didn't want to try to replace it. It's kind of an expensive machine that was a gift. And I thought, well, I'll go ahead and put the money in to service it and get these items fixed. So if you have an older machine and you're looking to get something refurbished or fixed at a sewing machine store, repair shop, I'm just going to tell you what it costs so that you'll have an idea in your head on what you may be looking at if you're thinking about having that service done. So here again, we got an overall general service, worked with the bobbin, getting it to work correctly, the light, the foot lift, and then replacing, let's see, the bobbin holder and the needle plate. It had some dents in it. And because it's an older machine, they had to use comparable parts because the parts for this machine are no longer available. So it is different in here now. So overall, the cost was like $280. So for all that type of work, that's what the price was to get this machine serviced at a local sewing machine store. So if you have a machine and you're looking at, what would it cost to get it fixed, and there's items that might need part replacement, I just wanted you to have a ballpark figure of what it costs to fix this one. So that way if within your budget it's worth it to get what you have fixed, or if perhaps you need to just switch out and get a different machine. And like I say, they still had the records of the sale for this, and this little machine is 25 years old. And she has had miles and miles and miles of fabric pass under her little presser foot. So because it was a more expensive machine, for me it was worth it to get it fixed rather than just replace it, because I like the quality of this machine and how it sews. Just information for you if that's something you're thinking about, and you know what your budget is. That way you'll have an idea, okay, should I just get a new machine that's within my budget, or should I fix what I have? So just some information for you. But this girl is back. I did go ahead and put in the little LED light strip again, just because I found even with this light, I really like the additional lighting underneath. And this little light strip I got off Amazon. I think it was $6, something like that. And it has a little self-adhesive tape. It was rather long, and I just cut where I needed it to stop and put it underneath there. So just some things, if you're looking at machines, looking at switching out, there's some information for you. As far as projects, we have a lot because Christmas is coming, and oh my goodness. So the first project, which is what we're going to work on today, is drafting up a ball gown for the Smart Doll Pear body. My daughter got this little gal. I think she's a Fortitude. I think her body was, coloring was either cinnamon or tea. I can't remember. It's her doll, so I don't remember. I think it's cinnamon or tea, and it's the Fortitude little face. And she would like to have a ball gown for that doll. So I've started working on it, drafting up the idea, basically kind of what I want to do. Will look something like this, and I've started on the pieces, so that's what we're going to do in this video. After I fill you in on a couple other projects we're going to do, is I'm going to draft up that pattern. It will, of course, go on the website. I'm not sure if it will be included in the 12 Gifts of Christmas or if it will be posted right away, just because I have a lot of things going and I don't know when I'll have the time to get it in the computer and then like, you know, make it all pretty and make it easier to see the edges and all that kind of stuff to get that ready. But that pattern is coming, as well as, now she knows about the ball gown, but I was also sneaky, and because she is a 3rd scale doll, I am getting her the, is it My Life brand? It's whatever the 18-inch dolls are at Walmart. I don't remember the brand. I get them all mixed up. But they have the Hogwarts herbology class. It's so cute. As well as the a little desk that goes in it. I don't know if it's Professor Sprouts or whatever, but I want to draft up a school uniform pattern for the Pear Shape Smart Doll as well. And then my Professor Snape, I will be using some of the pattern pieces from his robe to kind of shift them over to do a student robe for the Pear body, so that she'll have her school uniform and the school robe, and that way it can all go together as a Christmas gift. But she doesn't know about that part. So that will also be coming. So we have the ball gown coming, and the school uniform and the school robe for the Pear Smart Doll. Then for my other daughter, and she's not here so I can talk a little bit louder now, but she loves the anime Blue Exorcist, and so I decided I'm going to create Rin for her, because they're both very artistic daughters. I just love them, and they're so inspiring. And Savannah, it was so cute because now that she has her smart doll, she's so excited to come to another doll show because she wants to bring her, you know, and shop for her. And so it's very cute. And then my other daughter decided, well, I want to go too. And so I know she's going to have someone to bring. So I'm going to create Rin for her from the Blue Exorcist. So what I've done, this is everything I've gathered so far at this point. So what I did is the head is a cat bow head, and I bought this secondhand, and it already had a face up. So I think I'm going to need to put in darker brows, give them more of a mischievous slant to them. I might go, this face up already had some like gold eyeshadow. I may overlap that with something else, and just kind of, I'm not sure, change it up a little bit. But he does have blue eyes, and then he does have pointed ears. So I've started on the cut for the wig. I love fur wigs because you can start, and it was just hair out to here, but you can easily style and cut the hair on a fur wig. So this is a faux fur fabric that I made for a quarter scale doll, and then I've started on the haircut to cut it down to more of what Rin looks like. And I loved this little head sculpt because, we'll pull the wig off here, it just had, oh, that was my phone. It has the little sharp teeth and the pointed ears that were like the character. So it took me a while to find a head that would meet the needs of the character, and that it didn't have too much of a like a baby type face, because my daughter really, that's not really her aesthetic. She likes him to be a little bit older looking, so I think it meets the criteria pretty well. The body is a Miro doll body. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Miro doll because it's not one of the very expensive brands, but I love Miro doll bodies because they are on the lower price scale, and I'm going to cover them all up with clothing anyway. I'm not going to be showing off the actual body sculpt because it's going to have a uniform. So he'll have a school uniform as well, which will also be coming. So that will also be in the works, is a quarter scale school uniform. And it'll probably be, I'll grab elements from different things I've done and then kind of tweak them to get the uniform I want for him. And so that will also be coming and will be posted on the website. Again, I'm not sure if it'll be posted right away or if it'll wait till the 12 gifts of Christmas, just because when I get these patterns done, I need to sew them. So we might get a little bit more sewing videos in before the patterns are actually ready to post, but they're coming. So his outfit is coming. I just made some cute shorts here so he wouldn't be so naked. But this is the Miro doll quarter scale male body. It's the newer model. There is an older one that's a little more like kind of muscly, but it looks a little odd to me, and I don't really like that one. But this one has like just a more youthful sculpt, but not babyish sculpt. And so it's not a perfect match on the head color, but like I said, that's okay because it's going to be covered up with clothes. But here's the deal. This body, brand new from Miro doll, was $50. So because the head sculpt was way more than that, the head sculpt was very, very expensive. But I'm not putting out so much money in its entirety because even though the head sculpt was really expensive, the body was only $50. And just, I'm not sure how it is for everyone. I'm on the Pacific Northwest coast of the U.S., and I ordered the Miro doll body from Miro doll, which is in China, and I did not pay anything extra in shipping. I paid like the normal rates that I've always paid, and I actually got 2 of the bodies because they're only $50. And so I got them. I didn't pay anything extra in shipping, and I didn't pay any of the import tariff fees. I didn't have any extra charges. I just paid the normal shipping, and it came to me through United States Postal Service. So sometimes Miro dolls packages, if they're really big, they'll come DHL, but I have had some of their packages arrive through the U.S. Postal System. And for him, for this body and the adjoining one, I didn't pay anything extra, so I'm not sure if that's the same everywhere or if it's like the dollar amount that you spend. I don't know, but just putting it out there into the void, I did not pay anything extra in shipping or in tariff fees than I normally do. He arrived really, really fast. I've never had any problems getting anything from Miro doll from China. And I don't know if that's because I am on the Pacific coast. So just take that information as you will, and hopefully it will be helpful as you're planning your dolly purchases. Now, one thing about Miro doll is, many people already know this, but if you're new to the hobby, they are on the lower end of the price spectrum. But here's the deal. You need to also be aware that they are generally very floppy. They come needing to be tightened. And I usually tighten the strings, and then I also wire my dolls by putting a wire that goes from, it usually bends up in the chest, and one side goes down one leg, and the other piece goes down the other leg. And then I have a wire that goes from like the mid forearm up through the shoulders and then across to the other forearm. So I usually have a wire coming here, and then I have one up and bent here that gives added stability to the doll which is extremely helpful, especially if the resin is like a taller doll and it's very heavy. The wiring just kind of helps hold it in place. And I just went, I was getting wire that was really pretty and I liked it and it was okay from Dollar Tree, but they don't have it anymore. And it was like real pretty florist wire. But I found some that's a little bit stronger actually at just one of our local, it's called Bi-Mart. It's kind of like a Walmart store. And I went to the like household or automotive and electrical, you know, where they have all the building type stuff. And I found wiring that you can use for, I don't know, house projects, I guess. And they have different gauges of wire. So I got some of that, which is a lot stronger, that I usually use in my dolls, especially in the part that goes down their legs, and then a thinner wire that goes in their arms, because especially on a quarter scale, the holes are a lot smaller and some of the real heavy wires won't fit. So yeah, see how, whoa, how floppy he is. He just kind of flops around like a puppet. So he does need to be restrung, which I don't have any problem doing, but if you are not comfortable with that, that is something to be aware of before shopping Miro doll. Let's see. There are videos online on YouTube, and I've got a couple on how I wire dolls. So if you want to check those out, then that might be helpful for you as well. So all that to say, I have a lot of projects coming. So we have the Pear ball gown, school uniform, school robes, his school uniform. Then also for him, I've never done this before, but he has a sword, which I've already got, but the sword needs to be able to have blue flames on it, and then he has a tail, and he can have horns. And so I have stepped into the realm of thermal plastics, which are plastics that you can mold with heat. So I do have a heat gun that I use for different projects, and so I do have that already. And so I got a package that has black, because his tail is black, and then it has clear, which I thought I could mold the flames from the clear, and then the brown just comes with it. This is kind of the normal standard kind, but they do also have black and clear. This is Warbla, and these three pieces are the name brand Warbla, and this one is, which I think might have better results than some of the off-brands. So I'm going to try to sculpt his tail out of the black and then make the flames for the tail and the horns and the sword out of the clear. And then if I need, well, I will use resin and put blue coloring in it to add the blue in the flames to coat over this once it's sculpted. So that's coming up as well. So I've never done it before, so we'll learn together. So I do have that. If some of that fails, I also got some foam clay that I thought I could try molding like horns and his tail, the tuft of the end of the tail and stuff out of this if I have to. I do have some magnets. I want to figure out how I can get it so they'll stay on magnetically. So that's another challenge. I don't know if I'm going to actually be putting magnets into the doll or if I'll just make like a piece of clothing that's very snug that will have the magnet in it, and then the tail will attach to that. So, and then magnets inside the wig so that the horns can attach to those magnets as well. So that's what's coming. It's a lot, and we've been having a lot of overtime at work, so my weekends have been a little bit shorter, and then I was not feeling very well, and so it's taken me a while to get everything back up to where we're off and running. So we'll start today with our pattern, and then we'll move through the videos working on some of these projects. Oh, and then we do have one more project coming. Let me see here. So also for my 7 BTS fellas, I did the handbag pattern for them. Then I did the 7 coats of 7 colors, rainbow outfits for them. The next set of patterns for them will also be a series of like some coats that I want to make, and this time we'll have more of a pastel palette. So I have some materials here that are going to be in the line of what I'm kind of looking at. I have like some violet color, a light purple, a light blue, there's a creamy yellow color, then like a real soft sage green, and then a soft light gray. So those are the colors I think I'm going to be using for coats. Then we also have a couple of colors of fabric in the gray, as well as like a light tan. So it's just going to be kind of a soft, more muted color palette to make some garments for them. So that project is also on the way. So, oh my goodness, lots to do. So we'll switch up the camera and we'll get started with the first one, which is the ball gown pattern. Here are the pieces I have so far. I have been using the basic set for the pear-shaped smart doll to work on this pattern. So I've used the front piece, which is in here somewhere. Here we go. So here's the side front that I used, and I've elongated this bodice part. Then of course the front that I just saw underneath some of these. Here we go. So I used this to decide where I want my neckline to be, and then it's just going to come down. So I'm not going to have anything over the shoulder as far as a shoulder seam. And then again, elongated that. I've connected the spots that need to match with a dot, so when I sew it, I know this whole line goes up and over here. So I have some of those dots in place. Then I have the side back, which is not going to go up, again, because the back is going to drop down. So I just kind of penciled in where I want that line to go, and then followed it with the center back, which is somewhere in here. Let's see. There's the back. So it's going to be coming down on the back, and it won't need the upper back or the shoulder. And then the bodice has been lengthened. So I have this part done. Then my daughter wanted it off the shoulder. So I'm going to have the trim ruff will be across the top, and then like right before the underarm, it's going to come off of this garment and kind of go around the shoulder, but fallen off the shoulder. So what I've done is this is going to be that rough piece, and then there's a little bit so they can glue together, just because these pieces will not fit on an 8.5 by 11 sheet, and I needed it to be 29 inches long. So this will be attached to this piece, so there's a little bit of overlay here where it gives room for you to either glue it or tape it together before you cut your fabric. So this is the entire piece. Then in the center front, and then along two of these spots, the piece will be folded, so that's why there's only this side will be the seam where it attaches, but then this spot, these spots are going to be gathered and pinched, so it'll be kind of roughed. Then I want ruching to go across the center front piece, so that's what I've started with this piece. And what I've done, I don't know if the underneath will show through the paper, I guess it does a little. So I've done the top where the top edge would be, which would match the underlying piece. Then I lengthened it because I'm going to be gathering it. So I've lengthened that and drawn the bottom as well down at the bottom of my page because I want it to be that much longer. So here's the bottom. So now what I want to do is I want that to be evenly gathered. So I'm going to find where about the center of my piece is, and I'm going to lay this on top, and this is just kind of to show my process, how I kind of do it. And so now I'm going to trace just the center part here, and then I'm going to lengthen this all the way up to here and this all the way down to here. But if I came along the actual line, I would be out too far. So because I want those lines to match up, I'm only doing that center piece. So now I can come from the center. It's going to be here, but I know I need to match it here. So I'll kind of draw my line this way, and then from the center down to the bottom here. So that way you can see how much it kind of had to change in order to get all the way out. So now I can take this, and I might go ahead and just widen it just a little bit for the ruching part. And I might widen this. There we go. Kind of. So I've got the wideness for my hip. I might do that. Come up. There we go. And keep that, the wideness there, because I want it to be able to make sure it'll still fit her. So we want to keep a little bit of wideness. I think I'll do that. And some of my things just kind of work as I go like this. So, all right. So now this is going to be, this whole long edge will be gathered to fit this edge. So the ruching will go up the front and across. And so, yeah, that's how I'll do this piece. So we can now put the marker, and the black marker, well, I guess it's all black. The thick marker is the outside cutting line, and then I'll go in later and make the little lines that show the seam allowance. But there we go. So that's going to be the center front with the ruching. So once I have that done, my next order of business is the skirt. And so what I'm going to do is measure just the actual seam line of the bottom of all these pieces. So this is a center front, so we'll have to multiply that by 2. So we're going to have 4.7. So we've got 4.7, 4.7, because we know this is a center front and it's folded, so it would be double that. Then on this edge, we have, looks like 5.1, 5.1, and we need 2 of those because there's 2, 1 on each side. Then we'll need 2 of these because there's 2 pieces on each side, or 1 piece on each side, sorry, I should say. And that is 4.5, I'll say where that comes down. 4.5 and 4.5. Then this measurement is my center back piece, and it's going to come, we're going to say 5, so 2 of those is 10. So what I want to do is I want to add all these numbers together. So we've got, let's see, 14 and 10 is 24, 25, 26. Let's see, we've got 10, 8, 28. Okay, so 38.6 is going to be what I need to, if I was going to piece it exactly to fit. It would be 38.6. So I know that the line that's going to be attached to the bodice at this dropped waistline or hip line, if it was going to fit right to the edge, it would need to be the 38.6, but I know I want some gather, which means that the circumference that's going to configure our waist will need to be more than this 38.6. So that gives me an idea of the circular measurement we're going to need for the skirt part in order to fit it to the bodice pieces. As part of my thinking process, I'm just going to take you along the journey. That way you'll see how I come up with a pattern. Because sometimes when you're just drawing it out and that's all I show, it doesn't reflect really how much thinking I've done or how much math I've done. So we know that our circle to fit that hemline has to be at least a certain measurement. I would bump this up from 38.6 to 39. So I know I need at least 39 total, but I want it to be gathered. So now we're going to take a look at how you can gather and see how much gathering you want. So I have some examples. If we're going to say we have a 5-inch line of seam that we want to match, this would be the amount of gathering if we gather 1.5 times. So this would be, take the 5 and half of 5 is 2.5, so we add it for a 7.5-inch piece of fabric gathered to meet our 5-inch line. This is the amount of gathering you can expect. If we have a 5-inch piece of fabric and we're going to double it to 10 inches, this is the amount of gathering that you can expect. So this is twice the measurement. There we go. So that's a good amount of ruffle, not overpowering yet. If we take the 5-inch and we triple that amount, then this is the amount of gathering that you can expect. So here is triple the measurement. So a lot more fullness here, a lot more ruffles. There we go. And then if we quadruple the 5 inches to 20 inches, then this is the amount you can expect. So what we want to compare, like when you're doing doll clothing, and this is a very light flannel, just some extra that I had. The main reason I wanted to show these is not necessarily the fullness of the ruffles, but if you take a look at the difference, this is our 1.5 and this is our ×4. What I'm taking into account when I designed the skirt for this gown is the amount of bulk that's going to be created in the seam of my gathering. So here we have only a half more than our seam line. So the actual fabric bulk along this line is still just a little bit more than a flat piece of fabric. I mean, obviously it's ruffled, it's not flat, but that we haven't added that much bulk to where the actual seam line is going to be. But on this one, where we've multiplied it by 4, you can see how much thicker this fabric becomes at the seam line. And so that's what you need to take into account when you're designing for doll clothing, is when you say, oh, I want something that's really, really, really full, I'm going to have lots and lots of ruffles. It looks beautiful down here. Oh, this is really pretty. But in doll clothing, you have to evaluate, do I want this much bulk gathered around the waist of my doll? Because especially if you're doing a small doll, like maybe a Barbie, once you gather that, that's a lot of bulk right around the waist of the doll. So when the bodice comes down, you're going to have a lot of bulk in that seam allowance that really, because it's only 1/4 inch, it's not going to turn into this part very easily. Most likely it's going to be up inside the bodice. So you're going to add all that bulk inside the bodice at the waistline. So that's kind of why we want to evaluate how much ruffle we actually want to add here at the waistline. So that's just an example. Again, we can look at these just if you want to see what they look like compared. So here's 1.5. Here's double, so ×2. Then we have our ×3. There we go. and then times 4. So you can see when they're all together how much that geometrically changes in the thickness of the fabric that you're going to have at your waistline. So just an idea. So I always take into account how much bulk do I want at the waistline. I don't want very much. So I think I'm only going to go with 1.5 when I design the skirt for this. So if I know I've got a basis of 39, which because it's gathering, we can add a little bit of fullness just to make math easier. So we can even round up to 40. So if we say that's 40, and I only want to add half as much. So now I'm going to add just 20 to that, so that my total fabric that will be the waistline of the skirt will be 60 centimeters that will be gathered to fit my 38.6 centimeters when I attach the skirt to the waist. So I know I'm looking at about 60. Now the next thing I want to do is I'm going to have a front piece and then 2 side back pieces. Because I'm going to have the center seam in the back. So the back is going to be split into 2 pieces. So here again, I know I've got the front, let's see, 40 and 20. I'm doing math in my head again here. So I have a total of 60. And if we divide that in half, I know that I want the front to be 30 and each of these to be 15, because that would give me 2 times 15 is going to be a 30 again. Then if I add those, I'm going to get to the 60. Okay, so now let's put that into practice to what we're doing here. So I know that my front piece is going to be 30. Now, the next thing I want to do is I know I want to have the skirt to be really full, and I'm going to have a couple layers. So the top layer, I do want to have a lot of fullness, kind of like a double circle skirt kind of thing, where there's lots of folds in the fabric, because there's going to be minimal ruffles, but I want lots of folds. So I'm going to have the waist be, and I'm starting kind of in the center so that I have, or maybe here, because I'm just doing the front. So I want to have the circle be, I'm going to start with a circle here, because I know I'm going to end up opening that out. And I know that my thing will only go to have enough length for the skirt. Will have to come about to here and then here, just because of my fabric. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to bring in one of the legs of my doll patterns. And I know that the original waistline, let's see, so we're going to say, here's our original piece was here that meets up, let's see, our center front. This is the side, so this would be about here. So our bodice is going to come to about here. So from here down to the ankles would be a full length skirt, but I know my top layer is not going to go all the way to ankle, so it's going to go about here. So then I'm going to measure that distance. So it's going to be roughly, probably about 23 centimeters for the top layer of my skirt. I might go to 24, and that way I'll have some seam allowance, and hem, yeah, 24 I think will be good. So 24 centimeters out from my circle, and I'm going to lay my ruler. Let's see if we can move that out a little bit. So I know that the furthest out I can get and still have 24 centimeters is going to be about here. Okay, so I've got my to 24, which is there. And then I know what I need to do is this measurement needs to be, because this is going to be for the front, so it's going to need to be 30 centimeters around. And I want it to be a little bit sharp of a corner because then I'm going to straighten it out. So we're going to go ahead and get a guesstimate for half of it. So to 15, it'd be about here. So we're just going to have a gentle curve. Okay. Okay, so there's a curve. Now let's measure that a little bit better. 4, there we go. There's 10, 14, and 15. Yeah, so there. So now this is half of the front, and I don't know that I want it to be that arched. All right. And then I would want it to come out a little bit more, but I don't have that much fabric. So I may end up just moving it out. So now we're going to take our 24 centimeters and we're going to mark out from this line come back, kind of close in some of these dots from the waistline. So now we're going to fill this in. And we'll see if we can go ahead and fold this paper. So we'll take our tape off of here. I'm just going to fold it so I don't have any sticky tape anywhere. All right, and to save on measuring, we're just going to fold the paper and see if I have enough paper to just duplicate that. And it looks like I will. All right, so we're going to fold that in half. 15 here, and right to our edge. All right, so then this will be the front. And now I evaluate, and I don't really like, it's kind of a weird shape. So we might go ahead and double this again. Let's just do here. Let's see, so I need the 15 centimeters. Okay. Let's see if we right here. Let's see how full we can get this. Okay. So I think I'm gonna, there we go. I think I like this line better. And then this will come up the same amount. Okay, so now let's cut this out and take a look at it. There we go. Okay, now we'll put the hem here. All right, so now when we open this up, we have this, but then we're going to be coming down and it's going to hang like this. So I might, oh, sorry, there we go. So it'll hang like this. So it'll have this much of the rounded edge to it. Then that will also be gathered a little bit. Now, when I look at this, I'm not really gung-ho on the shape here, and I think I want that to come out more. So I'm going to grab some more paper, and this paper I get online. I think mine was purchased on eBay, but I think you can get it on Amazon probably as well. But this is actually fabric. This is paper that is called medical paper. That's what they use to put on like a medical exam chair table thing. That when you go to the doctor and they have you sit on the medical thing, and then they always have the paper on it. That's what this paper is. And I think these rolls were like $12 a roll, but there's tons of paper on it. It's transparent, like tracing paper, and it works really well with pattern pieces, even when you pin it. So it's the closest I've found to actual pattern paper, so I really like it. So we're going to see how I turn this to where I can get a better line here. So that's what we're going to do. So often I do mini drafts like this. This is just my working process. There we go. Let's see if my camera will stay, or if my paper will stay on the board while I'm working. Okay, so once again, I'm going to go ahead and take that to the bottom edge. I know that I can fold it and cut, so I'm going to save myself some hassle and only trace or go around half of it. So we're going to start here. And this is my center front. And then this, I think I want it to come out farther. So if we take our ruler at 24 centimeters and go out as far as I can to the edge of the paper, oops, I'm going to have more of that. And I think I like that better. It's going to be a lot fuller. So now I'm going to bring that all the way down, trace where the hem is. There we go. Okay, I do like that better, so I'm not going to use this. And let's draw a line here. Okay. Yeah, I do like that better. All right, now we'll fold it again on our center front. And hopefully I'll have enough paper on the other edge as well. Oh, not quite. I'm going to have to tape some on just because of the size of my paper. So see how this didn't have enough paper, so I will have to tape some there. So I will grab some tape. Alright, so I taped a little bit down here so that I have enough of the paper. So now we're going to go ahead and cut this. Get rid of excess paper. There we go. Now we'll cut around the hemline. So we'll cut all the way around. Okay, then we'll cut the waist. well, the edge of the bodice where it's going to connect anyway. Okay, so now we have the top layer, the front of the skirt. What I wanted to show mostly is to have that extra fullness on the skirt. What you'll see is that from the waist, the edge of the side goes away rather than back down. And that's what's going to help have more fullness once we take that line that connects and we bring it back down. My fold is a little, and we make it a straight line. It's going to give that fullness in the skirt to give like that waterfall drape that we like. Plus there will be some gathers, but that way the skirt is very, very full. And the paper is not cooperating as far as a pretty drape. But now to do the two side back pieces, it's really simple, because now since we have the front, the back is just going to be a mirror of this much of the front. So all I have to do is to trace this amount and then add a seam allowance on this side, because this side will already have a seam allowance because it's the edge. So then on my side back pieces, this would be the center back, which we've already got enough. And then on this side, because it's going to connect to the front piece, I'll add a seam allowance here. So I'll cut two pieces that are this size that will be the back of the skirt. That will be the top layer. Then I do want an under layer that will not be as full, but it will have a ruffle on it. So the next layer will be from this point, and it'll probably be substantially less. So I'll probably take my line and make it more of an A line. And then it will come to about this length right here, because then it will have a ruffle attached. And the ruffle will just be a long ruffle that will be sewn onto the under layer. But the under layer, because I don't want to add more and more bulk all the time with layers, it will not be as full as this. It will probably be more, it will look more like this. So it will be more close to the actual measurement, but it will have an A line, and then it will have the ruffle attached, so it will be underneath the top peplum waterfall type layer. So that's what we're going to design after I get two more pieces, or one more piece designed for the skirt back. So I will go ahead and put in a little bit of music, and we'll get that part done. Now we have all the underskirt pieces done. So this is the side, back, and the front. And now we have to design the ruffle that will be on the bottom edge of this skirt. So next I'm going to grab my leg again. So we'll grab this guy. And we know that this is going to be attached to the bodice about here. So now we want a ruffle that will come from this edge down a little bit lower, because this is the bottom of the ankle, so a little bit lower. So I know I want my paper to stay up. So let's grab a ruler here, and I can feel papers just falling all over the floor next to me. But we're going to measure from here, where I know the seam line is going to be here, so I'm going to add that seam allowance up to here. And let's see, I'll do my centimeters. So I know I'm going to want to come about this long, and then I'm going to add another seam allowance here. So my ruffle is going to need to be, the fabric's going to be 13 centimeters wide. So 13 centimeters wide is how wide I'll need to make my ruffle. Now ruffles can be done a couple different ways. So to do the ruffle, you can just make long rectangles and gather them. But because this is cut on a curve, so there is going to be some bias involved in the way the curve of the fabric is. Sometimes what can happen is if you're cutting, let's grab a piece of scrap here. If you're cutting a rectangle and you have a piece of fabric, let's see if we can zoom in here. There we go, so you can see it better. If you have a piece of fabric that's cut like this, and you make your ruffle just a long rectangle, and yes, it will have gathers, but a lot of times a rectangle ruffle will kind of hang like this. And so these edges will tend to kind of pull down a little bit if the rectangle is your ruffle. And so I want to have my ruffle extend kind of out a little bit more like this. So I want to cut my ruffle on a curve just like I did the skirt pieces. I want it to end up a little bit more like this, where it has a natural curve, rather than to have that kind of pull. Because then when your skirt comes down, it just, I don't know, sometimes to me it doesn't lay right. So what we're going to do is on the underskirt, I have it underneath this piece of paper, and I'm going to go ahead and give myself because here would be the seam line, so I'm going to give myself about a ½ inch on the curve so that I have seam allowance. Then I'm going to measure my 13 centimeters out at the same angle that we did the skirt. So we have our 13 centimeters. It's going to go to the edge of the paper. And I'm going to go ahead and do that same process that we used before. Just measuring from that line, 13 centimeters. Making our marks and then connecting them to give us that same curvature. And then what I'll do is, I know that this bottom ruffle I do want to be really full. I do want to have lots of gathers. It will not be connected in a place that's going to add bulk to the bodice. So then I will simply multiply this piece that I'm designing here by 4. I'll just cut 4 of them, or like place one edge on a fold, so that I have 4 times as much, not 4 times as much, double the length of the total skirt. and then I will gather it. So my gathers will be times 2. Now to get this pattern ready for the website, these are huge pieces. So I'll probably have to divide them up, and there will have to be assembly like on several of my patterns, but I'll probably lay them out on 11 by 17 inch size paper. Here are the pieces that we have. We have the center front of the bodice, that this would be cut on a fold. So normally we'll have arrows here, on fold, and that's the center front. Then we have the ruching piece that will be gathered to meet this edge. So this also will be cut on the fold here. And this is also the center front. So these pieces, this will layer on top of this one. And we'll also have like the fabric and a lining of this piece. Then we'll have fabric and a lining of this piece that will need 2 fabric and 2 lining because they'll be mirrored on the other side. So this is the side front, we have the side back, and then we have the center back here. So these are the pieces of the bodice. And here I just used a piece of tape to connect those to see the length of this will be folded and then gathered where these little lines are. It will be attached onto the bodice, so this will wrap around the arm and connect to the back of the dress. So this will be like the off-shoulder trim on the front of the gown. Then on our skirt pieces, we have the underskirt. So let's see if we can get this to work here. Okay, so then we have the underskirt that will be slightly gathered to meet the bodice pieces, like so. Then this will be doubled, so the underskirt will also have a ruffle that will attach onto the underskirt, so that will be really, really full. Then we'll have the overskirt that will be more gathered and ruffled, that will hang over the top of that. So then we'll see where the ruffle is down here. There we go, down here. Okay, so that's a lot of fabric. Then on the sides, we're also going to have roses that because this is already a lot going on, I am going to just get some of the little ribbon roses. So this is the lace overlay that I'm going to be using for the overskirt. And then I will also have some of this on the bodice. And then these are just white ones, but this is what I mean by the little ribbon roses. I'll just get some pink that will be on. Then I also have some of this lace, but it has blue in it. So I'm not sure if I'll end up using any of these pieces, but I might grab some of these little flowers and then applique them on in different spots and use the ones that are only pink and gold. So I do have some of these that I may take advantage of and place on the dress. So I'm not sure yet if I'll be using any of these, but I love these flowers too. And then for the underneath, I have just some solid pink that will be the underskirt, and then the ruffle on the underskirt. I dropped my little roses, so kind of moving around here, but yeah. And this fabric I got on Amazon, believe it or not, because since Joann's closed, I'm having to source from other places. So, but I did like this. I thought it was real pretty. So this will be the overskirt, and then, like I say, the fabric part of my bodice, and then the lining part will just be a solid pink underneath it. So that's where we are so far on this project. So we'll go ahead and get as much ready of this pattern. And like I say, it'll probably be on the 11 by 17 size paper, and we'll get that ready and put it on the website because I made a little bit more progress than I thought I would. So we'll get that ready and posted, and then as we put the gown together, then you can come along, and if you want to make a gown as well, you can follow along. So until next time, bye!